Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Tina Arnoldi. I'm going to be talking about Google Analytics this morning, and this is a little bit about who I am. I work for Coastal Community Foundation in Charleston, South Carolina. We're a grant-making foundation, so we give grants to nonprofits from Beaufort to Georgetown. The Palmetto Technology Hub I have mentioned on here is a project I started out of Coastal Community Foundation, and what we do is we match tech-literate volunteers with nonprofits who don't necessarily have a budget to do the things they need to do in their jobs. So the Technology Hub started in Charleston. It was supposed to be in that area, but then we've started hearing from people in Greenville and Hilton Head, and we have a volunteer remote in Beaufort, and so it's kind of growing a little more than I expected. And I'm going to use the Palmetto Technology Hub as kind of my case study when I show you screenshots today. I have cards for both projects, so I'm going to probably be talking kind of fast, but I'll keep asking for clarification along the way if you have any questions. If you want to follow up later, again, the cards are here. If you want to learn about the Tech Hub, I have cards for that as well. And I'm also here through Saturday, so if any questions come up, again, please feel free to grab me. I want to start by asking how many people are going to be using social media either during the session or sometime during the weekend? Okay, good. I'm glad I have this next slide. This is my flow chart on my recommendations. If you are using social media during this talk, I wonder next if you think that this is a good presentation. If you think it is, then you might want to give a shout out. Good stuff on analytics from Tina Arnoldi. If you don't think it is, I want to know if it's the worst presentation you've ever heard. If it's not the worst you've ever heard, then maybe you can tell your very private, very closed network of Facebook followers that you didn't care for the presentation, you don't remember the girl's name. If it is the worst presentation you've ever heard, maybe you could do nothing. Maybe refrain from social media, post it to MySpace, but you do what you need to do, but again, these are my recommendations. Okay, so Google Analytics. Who here has Google Analytics installed on one of their websites? Okay, good. How many people are somewhat familiar with what to do with it? Okay. How many people consider themselves really advanced users? Okay, good. I'm glad I didn't see too many hands because you might have been disappointed because this is probably, I think I've got the right crowd for what I'm showing you. So again, I'm sure, as you guys know, Google Analytics, it's to help you know if people are visiting your website. What are they doing while they're there? How did they even find you? So these are the questions that Google Analytics is available to help you answer. So what I'm going to talk about, I know I've got a short time and I want to honor the 45 minutes. I'm going to talk about how you define your questions, take a look at the homepage dashboard, just highlight some of the reports available. I'm not going to go through everything. I just want to make sure people are aware of what they can access. I'm going to talk about visitors, sources, content, and we'll talk a little bit about goals. How many people have been in the beta version, the new version of analytics? Okay, that's the screenshots I'm going to use today, and they've got a couple new features, which I'll point out along the way. I'm not going to get into implementation, which is good. It seems like just about everybody in the room already has it. I won't get into the custom reporting. The reason I'm saying what I'm not doing today is just these are things that you might want to follow up on if you're still kind of learning how to use it. The track event, some customization of your code if you want to track something like video views. Across sites, this is good to know if you have multiple you're an owner of multiple websites and you want to see what user does from this website to that website, look into link. And that way, you're tracking a user rather than having the user be new on this website or have it be a new visit on that website. So it's just good for you to know that that exists. And then a little more advanced segments is when you're looking at subsets of traffic side by side. So you might look at your paid traffic by your visits with conversions. Right? There's a ridiculous amount of data in analytics. I think there can be good data in there, but it's very overwhelming. You don't know what to do with all of it. Or you don't know if you even need all of it. So that's why, again, today's talk is just about pointing out some highlights and who might need to know what. The questions. I find a lot of people, especially when I talk to my nonprofit people, they set up their analytics, but they don't really ask questions about why they would be doing it or how they would be using it. So some of the questions that you might have, you want to know if people are clicking links in your email newsletters. Does that take them to your website? Are there referral partners you can cultivate? You know, for example, if you find the local paper is sending a lot of traffic to your website, maybe you can, you know, look into an improved partnership with them. People are bouncing on a key page. There's different things you want to explore there. Is the content, you know, horrible? Is it just something in a Internet Explorer web browser versus Firefox? Just things that you want to dig into a little deeper. And then if people drop off at a certain place in your funnel, and that would be like a shopping cart. So I decide I want to buy these shoes. I put my shoes in the shopping cart. I fill out my shopping and, you know, my shipping information, but I never actually make the purchase. Well, what happened in there? Where you may be asking for a little too much information, and that's where you were losing people in that funnel. How many people have an AdWords campaign? Anybody using Google AdWords? A few people. This is helpful too if you want to see if your AdWords campaign is driving useful traffic. Different ways you can identify useful traffic, but if your AdWords campaign are bringing people to your site and a purchase is never made, a contact form is never filled out, you might want to just evaluate your campaigns and see what are you advertising. Is it not what the user thinks? Again, why do I even have a website? This is very important. I think what happens if something increased or decreased. Instead of getting too hung up in just the raw numbers, think in terms of trends, right? So let's say I looked at my website and I had 2,000 visitors this month, and you go to your CEO and you're like, hey, we had 2,000 visitors, but you don't tell them that you had 4,000 last month, right? So the 2,000 visitors isn't so great if it's dropping in half. So maybe think in terms of percentages rather than raw numbers. Again, campaign doesn't just mean AdWords, it means any kind of, you know, promotion. Did people convert more? You know, did that sale, did that coupon get you a lot more purchases on your site? Did people not use it? And again, ultimately, what are you going to do with the data? Who needs to know what? Are you going to make any decisions from it? Okay, it's not going to be everything. There's still going to be questions that are unanswered. You know, Google Analytics is not the holy grail. There are other sources that you're going to need, but just, again, I think you can still get a lot from it. So this is the homepage of the beta version. On your homepage, you'll have your dashboard, and this is just your info at a glance. And I'll just repeat this. Again, the screenshots are from the Palmetto Technology Hub, and it's a little embarrassing in this short time period. We had 385 visits, but I will say this is a volunteer-run project. So we don't have marketing, we don't have finance, we don't have anything. We have a couple volunteers who are just scrambling to make it run. So I am hoping for every single one of you in this room that your traffic is a little higher than 385. But your dashboard important is, you know, it's at a glance. So this is kind of like maybe your executive level, or if you have people in your company who don't really get it and they want to just see your numbers, this is when you kind of just throw the dashboard at them and do what you need to do. But again, the keeping in context. You know, like, so 385, hey, if we had 50 people last month, 385 is kind of awesome. You know, if we had 1,000 last month, that's not so great either. So think in terms of trends and how you're doing over time. You can also customize your dashboard. I didn't do any live, I'm not doing anything live today because I just like to assume that the wireless isn't going to work, so I'm not stuck somewhere. But with your dashboard, when you get into your reporting, there's a little button there that says Add to Dashboard. So you can customize this to have whatever kind of information you need at a glance. Be very careful with trends. If we look at this, again, for the Palmetto Technology Hub website, and this is just looking at it by day for a month, and at a glance you think, oh man, wow, we really dipped here, and I wonder what happened here. This looks great, we went way up. If you change your view and you look at it by week, you can see it really is kind of steady. You know, so there really isn't much of a change. So just be very careful when you are looking at data like this that you look at it a couple different ways, because maybe your spikes really aren't that meaningful when you change your view. Okay, standard reporting. This, I tried to get everything on one screen, but what you'll see when you log into you're looking at the new view, you're at standard. All this information is just going to be one column on the left. I was just trying to fit it all on one slide. And I won't go through every piece in here today, but you can see when I talk about being, you know, drowning in data, All that information you can find about your visitors, your AdWords, your traffic, your content, your conversions. So there's a lot of information available just in the standard reporting. The custom reporting, which I'm not getting into today, but if you feel that you can't find what you need in this section, just so you know that there is custom reporting available if you want to dig a little deeper. So I'm going to start with visitors. A lot of this talking to this group, I'm sure these are things that you already know. But you're going to have limitations, right? You have somebody who checks your travel website at home and then they check it again at work. Is that two people? Is that one person? You have a situation where there's multiple members of a household. So mom gets on the computer and then dad gets on the computer and then Susie's on the computer and they're all looking at the same website. So you think you've got one person coming back a lot or a roommate situation and it's tracking the cookies when it's actually multiple people. And then, of course, clearing cookies. Google Analytics requires that in order to track it. So if you have somebody who's really savvy, who's clearing it, you're also going to miss those people, too. So again, it's a trend. It's not a picture of every single person that comes to your site. So just a quick overview. When you look in visitors, again, I kind of feel like each section has its own little dashboard. This is overview under visitors. And it tells you just at a glance, my visits, visitors. You can see who's new and who's returning. And you have different ways you can think about this. I kind of think a new visitor, it shows that you're doing really good with your advertising, your marketing, your word of mouth efforts, because you're getting new people to your website. When you have the returning visitor, you have people who are, you've got something that they're interested in. So maybe you're a content site and they think it's pretty cool and they keep coming back. So you just think about the type of visitor and what that means to you. Any questions so far? So let me stop for a second. No, we're all good. Okay. The demographics. If you are local, if you just serve a local market, you especially might be interested in looking at the demographics. Again, Palmetto Technology Hub, I really just want to look at my South Carolina traffic because that's who we serve. Those are the nonprofits we serve. So I like the drill down feature. So again, we're in the visitors standard reporting section in demographics. And if you can see over here, the countries that people come from are visitors: United States, United Kingdom, Costa Rica, which if I was there, I would not be on the internet, but that's okay. And then India. And then I thought, I'm glad to see most of it's from the US. If most of it was international, we'd have a little bit of a problem since we need volunteers in the state. So when I click on United States, I drill down even farther, and I see, my top traffic is from South Carolina, which is good. Now, if I want to drill down even further, I want to see if it's the cities really that are local to where I live in Charleston, South Carolina. I would click on South Carolina, and then I would drill down even further, and I would see the cities. And this is what I would expect: Charleston, North Charleston. I'm a little surprised Columbia is a couple hours from us. Greenville's a couple hours from us, but we're getting some people there that are finding out about what we're doing. And one thing that's interesting about this too is, let's say you see a lot of traffic from a market or a geographical area that really surprises you. That could be a new marketing opportunity, or if you're thinking of expansion, this kind of data I think can be helpful to at least think about. That's where people are coming from. And you can drill in a little deeper. And you're going to see this whether you're in visitors, traffic sources, and I want to just point out the two key things, in my opinion, here. You have secondary dimension, and that lets you kind of like look at, I'll get to the example, that'll make a lot more sense. But secondary dimension, just make note of that, and advanced filter. So I'm still in my city view. I broke it down on who in South Carolina is coming to the website. And then I decided, let's look at a secondary dimension of source. So my source here is, how did people find me? So I'm curious what efforts are working in different cities. So in Charleston, people surfing us on Google, they know the website. This I like to see, Palmetto Technology Hub list, that's our email list in MailChimp. So when we send out our email newsletter, people are actually allegedly reading it, or maybe just clicking on a few links, but it is driving some people to our website. Facebook, which is kind of cool, and I'll show you some numbers later, a little bit later, but we have some really avid Facebook fans, like some people who maybe are spending a little too much time on Facebook, but that's cool if they, share the word and come to our site. And then you can look at this even further. So we see, okay, so we've got some, interesting traffic here. Let's look at one of our advanced filters, and that I pointed out up here. So let's say I want to include the average time on site is greater than 2 minutes, or in this case, 120, right? So 120 seconds, which is kind of, I personally think it's kind of sad that 2 minutes is, wow, we got somebody for 2 minutes, but it kind of shows what all of our attention spans are like these days. So you got to start small. So that's another way that you can even drill in even further, right? So you've seen the city, you're seeing where they're coming from and how much time they're spending. You can also do it the other way around. I could have said include average time on site is less than 5 seconds or less than 10 seconds, and you can think negatively to kind of see where your problems are. So there's different ways of looking at it. Any questions about visitors' demographics?
The IP, does demographics track the IP address of the physical computer or where that computer is host or server is located?
That's a good question. She asked if it tracks the IP or where the server, you said where the host is located. I believe it's where the host is located. Can somebody correct me if I just said that wrong? That is correct. Okay, where the host is located. So that's a good point too. We get into trends, right? So it can be information's not completely accurate. So this may not be actually 35 in Charleston, like you're saying, if it's hosted elsewhere. Visitors mobile, I'm not going to get into mobile. I don't have any kind of expertise in the area. I'm pointing this out because you think about who needs what data in your analytics account. And this is something that I think it's something that you want to at least pay attention to. And if you don't have a mobile ready, or optimized mobile website, and you start to see that your mobile numbers are going up, that would be a time to talk to your web developer, or obviously if you're the web developer, to think about those kinds of things that, hey, we're getting mobile traffic and our site just really doesn't look so good in a mobile setting. And that also is under visitors. It's visitors mobile, and you can just get an overview, high level of the numbers, and you can also look at devices. Visitors technology, this is the same kind of thing, Mozilla, Firefox, it's gonna tell you the browsers that people are coming in on. And again, this is of use to people who are developing websites, because if you look at the browsers that people are coming in on, and let's say you pick a number such as bounce rate greater than 90, and if everybody on Internet Explorer is bouncing, those numbers are through the roof, and they're bouncing right off of your site, well then you know that your website might not be optimized for Internet Explorer use. So I think that's where this information can be valuable, is looking at the browsers and the bounce rates to kind of help you be at least on the right track for finding any problems. Any other visitor questions before I get into traffic sources? Okay. So traffic sources, again, this is just your high-level overview. Is your traffic coming from search? Are they direct? Are they referral? Do they come from like an email or an AdWords campaign? And so that's, again, just at a glance. Again, I always say this is your management picture. It's just at a glance. They want to know what's going on. And these are your keywords. I'm glad to see people are searching Palmetto Technology Hub. They've heard of us. This one just kind of cracks me up. We had a conference in the summer we called a nonprofit boot camp, and we had people from Google speaking at the conference. And on our evaluations, I do not lie, they said, wow, those Google guys were pretty hot. So I'm like, okay, it's not really what the conference was about, but I'm glad you enjoyed what you were watching. Well, they're still searching on these guys, so they're stalking them a little bit now, and they're getting to our website as a result. So they're kind of amused by that as well. So we've had some speaker name searches. So again, this just shows you the keywords that people are using to get your site. So thinking kind of big picture, traffic source referrals, where are your efforts working, partners you should cultivate, what brings you good traffic, is social media working, and like partners you should cultivate. Let's say that you have somebody who's driving a lot of traffic and it's good traffic, you're getting conversions, maybe there's something you can do to be even a little more prominent on their website. You know, can they give you even more of a plug? You know, which brings you good traffic, and this is again where I think of, I have a client, I manage their AdWords campaign, and they're getting a ton of click-throughs, but they're not getting conversions, and I'm struggling with trying to explain to them why that's a little bit of a problem. It's like, you know, you're getting all these great click-through rates, but I'm not seeing purchases. And you want to look at all of this information together. And then again, social media. You know, are you talking to anybody out there, or are you talking to yourself? You can see if that's driving traffic for you. And again, I'm going to get into a little deeper breaking down. So let's talk a little bit more about our referrals to palmettotechnologyhub.org. So I decided to look just at referrals. All right, so these are my referrals. And then I wanted to, again, since I'm obsessed with the geography, I wanted to look at the secondary dimension of region. And what I found, this I was kind of happy to see, again, we've got our Facebook fans. Well, our Facebook fans in South Carolina are spending 7 minutes on our website, which, right, 7 minutes, that's kind of a lifetime in web world. So I was glad to see that. These two I highlight, I just think it's kind of interesting, are visits from England. The Media Cause, has anyone ever heard of that, Media Cause? It's a site, it's a kind of a nonprofit technology help site. Nonprofits can go to Media Cause and they can put in a request for support for someone to look at their analytics account or AdWords account, or help me start my email newsletter. And we've put requests on there before for Palmetto Technology Hub, and it is international, so we've caught the interest of some people in England. And then I noticed in LinkedIn, this one surprised me a little bit, we had some England people on there too, but maybe they saw one of our events going around or one of our posts. So again, it's interesting to see where your traffic is coming from. Traffic sources. So if you picture the screen I showed you at the beginning on the left, you have traffic sources, search, and we're going to look just at organic, right? You know, organic is your content. You want to see if you've got you're using the right keywords, too many keywords, if your content is optimized, and all the kind of information your writers would want to know. So I did click the right one. So these were the keywords, and this I thought was interesting too. Nikolai, he was a speaker at our conference, and he's a very active volunteer with the program, so I thought it was kind of interesting. People are searching on him. And then again, we had a lot, the conference, as I said, was called Nonprofit Boot Camp, so we have people using the word boot camp. So I thought, well, let's see, you know, Palmetto Technology Hub, you know, there's different ways people refer to it, but I wanted to see what words they were using other than tech. So when I was looking at my organic traffic, I said exclude the keyword tech. I just want to see how else people are finding us, and that's where I came up with this. I probably would also want to exclude on boot camp and just exclude other obvious keywords over a large time period and see how people are finding you. And then again, I decided let's look at the time on site. So they're not using the word tech, and they're on our site for more than 2 minutes. Let's take a look at who this is. So we know you think of yourself one way, your visitors may think of you another way. So again, other pictures of this is how people are finding their way to your website. And again, organically. So this takes out your paid traffic. Okay, content. Again, you've heard content is king. You got to be unique and original. And so I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but with content, you're thinking about what interests your visitors. What's really interesting to look at is if you're losing them on key pages, right? If you think you have like the super page, it's the page that's the be-all, end-all, and people are bouncing or they're never getting there, you might want to think, well, wait, do we need a link to drive them to that page? Do we need to update that page? What's going on that they don't love our king of all pages? Again, what gets them there? The referrals, what drives people to those pages. This one, popular pages where you can add key info. So I'll give you an example from Tech Hub. If I looked at my traffic and I saw that nobody was finding our events page, and that's key to us. We have every month, we offer 1 or 2 free tech trainings to nonprofits, but everybody was on my nonprofit page. What I would do then on my nonprofit page is maybe have either a little image that says, hey, free events, or some kind of link or something that makes sure that they know about the events page, right? So I'm taking that popular nonprofits page and I'm using that as a gateway to kind of try to get more people to see our events page. So that's the way how you can use your popular pages. Is that kind of, okay. And then again, popular landing pages. Remember, it's not always your home page. You can see how people are finding you in search if there's someplace else that they're landing frequently other than your home page. Again, content overview. Again, this is your CEO screen, but this is your index, your home page. You're going to see most of it there. And again, I know our numbers are very small for this time period, but this was something I was glad to see, is that people are going to our Meet Our Volunteers page. We profiled a few of our really key active volunteers because I want to give them, promotion, and if they get paid gigs out of volunteering, I think that's awesome. So I'm glad people care about who our volunteers are. So again, those are just at a glance, and it's just a picture. These are your top pages. This isn't going to tell you, how long they stayed there, how they got there, what they did, but this is just that higher level bird's eye view, which pages are people going to. Okay, content pages. This is, again, I'm getting back to looking at things in context, and I'll show you an example on this page. You can see our volunteer page had a 100% bounce rate. So people come there, they take off, but they also spent 3 minutes on it. So that's something I would want to look into a little further, because are they reading about being a volunteer and they're thinking, oh, this is awesome, I'm on board, and they go to our Google Docs and fill out the form, and that's why it took time, they got what they needed and they were on their way? Or are volunteers going there and they're like reading all about it and they're like, whoa, this is the worst idea ever after I've read all this, and then they take off. So what I would want to tie this into is when I see bouncing on volunteer page, but I see people are spending some time there, then I should look at my volunteer signups for that day. So you see what I mean about kind of following that trail and seeing how things are working together, because this would be a problem if they are spending the 3 minutes on the page, but nobody's signing up. Well, then I know it's hey, this is the worst idea ever, rather than people signing up and becoming a new volunteer. So again, look at these numbers together and think about your full path of what you want people to do. Good on pages? Okay, goals. How many people have goals set up in their analytics account? A couple people? Your analytics goals, I kept my nonprofit things in here, but if you want them to visit a specific page, a good goal, you want them to buy something, even filling out your contact form. And sometimes it's a struggle, especially with the nonprofits, is there's not necessarily a whole lot of, they feel like there's not a whole lot of actions because they're not an e-commerce site. But if somebody fills out your form, that's a touch, right? You've caught their interest. So these are the kinds of things you might set up for goals. If they're signing up for an event, if they download a PDF or a document. So as you're looking at your website and you're trying to decide which goals make sense, think about how do I want to build a relationship with my visitors? What are some of the touches I can begin to do to see that they're interested? Again, it could be taking an action, it could be time on site, it could be the depth of pages. So just kind of brainstorm, and that's when it might be helpful too to pull in a friend or somebody who doesn't know a whole lot about you, that they have them look at the site, and if they can see, it's pretty obvious what the actions are. That's when I always have somebody, because when you get too close to your site, sometimes you can't see what's wrong with it. I have that, I'm like, oh, this is great, and people look at it and like, well, not so much, because they're looking at it from the outside. The goals, I do want to point out, for people who are a little newer to analytics, this is one thing I don't think is very obvious in analytics, not as intuitive as some of the other things. But when you're in the new beta version, again, we're back to the home reporting, this little button here, that's your settings button. So you have to go there to get to your goals. So again, I want to point that out just because I don't think it's obvious. There's a number of things you can do here in settings, but again, I'm just going to look at goals. With goals, I don't know why Google does this, but they have goals in sets. So you have 4 sets of 5 goals in each set. That really means nothing. I have no idea why they have sets, because they don't have to be related. It's not like you have to have a set of goals for buying and a set of goals for contacting. It's just they set it up that way for whatever reason. Point is, you have 20 goals. So you can have 20 things that you want people to do on your website. Now, if you think that you're in a place where you would need more than 20 goals, you can get around that by creating a second profile. So if you're getting new to analytics and you see that you're going to want to start setting up dozens and dozens of goals, create multiple profiles for that same website. And that's kind of a way to trick it and get some more goals. And something I do want to mention about setting up the account, even though I said I wasn't really going to get into that today. Is anybody using filters on your account? Anybody have a filter for internal traffic? Yeah. What you can do with analytics is you can filter out your company traffic, right? So if you work with 100 people and you don't care what they're doing on your website, you might want to filter out your office IP. But what you should still do is you should have a raw profile where have done nothing to it, and have a second profile and use that for your filtering, because once you filter, that data is lost. The reason I point that out is because I heard of someone who they're like, okay, they have their one profile, we're going to filter, we're going to get rid of this internal traffic. Well, instead of writing excluding external traffic or for certain IPs, they wrote it so they were only including their office traffic. They wondered why their numbers went down. I wonder why that guy's probably looking for a new job, because that data is gone. Once you filter, the data's lost. So make sure you always have a clean, raw profile that you don't do any filters with. And then look at doing your filters and getting rid of your internal traffic. So I'll show you an example of a goal. With goals, you can't delete, which is a little annoying. You can make them active or inactive, or you can just, if you need, like let's say you don't want to do your time goal anymore, you can edit it. So it's not like it's set in stone forever. You can pause it or you can change it to something else. And this example is a time on site, and it's totally random, whatever you think is a good amount of time. So I chose time on site. I said greater than 5 minutes. So as this goal, after it's been running for a while, this is a kind of a way for me to segment out that traffic, and I can just look at my greater than 5 minutes traffic goal, right? See the people who are on there for greater than 5 minutes, what are they doing on the site? And the other one that I really like is the page per visit. So how deep do they get? Are they on one page and they're on their way, or did they get 6 pages in? Are they really reading a lot on your site? So you can think of the time and the pages as your good engagement goals. Multi-channel funnels, has anyone used this yet in analytics? Yeah, it's in the new beta version. I'm still kind of trying to figure it out a little bit, what I want to do with it. But what it does is it shows you, your conversions. Conversion is your goal, right? So if I did the sign-up form, that might be a conversion, considering if that was a goal that I had set up. And then assisted conversions would be where there was an assist before that person met that goal. So for example, they read about you, they saw an email newsletter and they clicked to your site, so they have a referral of email newsletter, but they didn't really take any kind of action. Well, within the next, within that 30-day period, they came back to your site directly, and then maybe they took an action. So you can see the trail of touches. So you may have they saw the email newsletter, they went to your site directly, and then they took action. Or they went to your site directly 5 times, and then they took action. So it's kind of a new way to let you see a trail of what's happening, what drives people to eventually take an action. And I'm just going to highlight this quickly because, again, I'm still kind of playing with it. But it's this conversion visualizer. So, you have, I said, direct, organic, and referral. And I just kind of, what it does is it gives you a picture, it lumps them together so you can see which traffic was just organic, meaning I surfed, I found your website, I did something, or the traffic that was just direct and did something, or the relationships between the two, that I surfed and I went direct and I did this and I did that. You can see how those things overlap. So this number, as you start playing around with this number is going to be greater than 100% because you have the channels that are going to be working on their own and working together.
How long do you think it takes for the trend to be able to analyze those trends and set a new goal?
A new goal, I would say a couple months. Yeah, just give yourself some time to build it up. Okay, so this, as I was saying, you can see the path of what's happening. This is, again, under goals, multi-channel funnels, if you were looking at the menu on the left. And I went ahead, and I'm obviously using a new clicker today since I keep messing that up. But this is my channel path, and I wanted you to see, again, we got your dimensions. So I did a source path. I wanted to see a detail about the source, the channel, and the path I'm looking at. So here's an example. This one on the bottom, somebody did organic, then they did another organic, which is just a Google or Bing search, and then they went right to the site. And then I wanted to look at a little more detail. Okay, so it was Google, and then they went to direct, versus it could have said, Bing, Bing, direct. So it shows you the details of the path they're following. Yes, so each specific visitor would be a group of lines. So, for example, in this last one where I showed, organic, direct, and then 7. Well, it led to 7 conversions. Like seven people took that path. And this a referral, you can get essentially self-referrals. So this one, our old website name was scpath.org, and we now use palmettotechnologyhub.org. So it's good, I think it could be useful to kind of drill down. So it says it's a referral, but we were kind of referring from ourselves. So I don't know if that was really a referral.
That could solve a question that we just had a couple weeks ago, because we had an AdWords campaign where we were promoting something on Facebook, and we had a lot of traffic, but not a lot of conversions. But there were other conversions that were from direct traffic, and we wondered really whether some of those were people had seen the ads, they come maybe and looked at, but they didn't like. But then after thinking about it, or maybe seeing the ads more, came back directly to the website, and because we also have billboard campaigns and that sort of thing, that maybe they came, but part of that Facebook ad, because we were trying to figure out the ROI on the Facebook ad,
Right, that's a good point. For people who didn't hear that, she had a Facebook ad, and it didn't seem to be really doing anything for them. But now she was pointing out with this kind of funnel, you could see if, well, maybe they did start at Facebook, and then it kind of got them thinking, and then they came back another way later on. So it could be helpful for that to see the full trail.
So you're not tracing individual people, you're tracing overall?
Yeah, you're tracing. Trying to think of the best ways, like the paths. Like who chose to do a organic direct. It's taking all of your people and lumping them in groups of the paths that they took. I don't think you can trace one person's visit. I don't know, maybe you can dig in a little deeper. I honestly, I'm still kind of learning my way around this multi-channels. Okay, a couple other quick things. This, again, trying to figure out how to interpret this. Like I said, I'm new to it. So as other people get into the multi-channel funnels, since it's a new feature, I'd love to hear about what things you're finding. I just thought this one was particularly interesting. This is a group of people, they went direct, they went to our website, palmettotechnologyhub.org, then they came back to us in an organic search. And that made me wonder, okay, they went to the website directly because they know who we are, but then maybe they did the organic because they want to see what people are saying about us. So Palmetto Technology Hub review, or what's up, any kind of information they want to learn about us. So that might be why they go organic after they do direct. This, remember I said we've got an avid Facebook group. This section went to Facebook like 50 million times and then came over to our website. So I don't know what's up with that, but I just thought that was interesting. Couple quick things, because I'm almost out of time. Again, AdWords connects to analytics. So if you ever are looking at doing an AdWords campaign, make sure you connect it to your analytics account, because you're getting a lot more useful data in there. And then these, I want to point out, I had mentioned a little earlier, this is if you are working, let's say you are working for a nonprofit or you have some nonprofit friends, these are great resources for them. Or if you're looking about learning more about analytics because you want to get into the field, this is another great resource. So I'll start with the bottom one. I mentioned this earlier, Media Cause, that's an international site. You can hop on, help a nonprofit with their email newsletter. If you are a nonprofit, you can get on there and ask for some help with your AdWords account. This analysis exchange, this is good if you are looking to get some more experience, you want to just learn about it. What you do is you sign up, you take a nonprofit project, but you also have a mentor. So while you're donating your time to help a nonprofit with their analytics, you have someone who's a little more experienced who's going to, hold your hand through the process. So you're doing something good, but you're also building up your skills because you've got somebody experienced who's going to walk through the project with you. So I think that's just a great resource that I like to pass around to people who are interested as well as to people who need some help. All right, wrap up. Here's what we did. Reminding you to have questions, know why you have your website, what it's supposed to do. Look at your numbers in context. Ooh, I forgot to put that in there. I hope my CEO doesn't see this. Anybody heard the term HIPPO? Highest paid person's opinion? So make sure you have it in context, and sometimes you just throw the chart, and otherwise you have to explain, well, no, this actually is a good number, this actually is a bad number. If you're local, get hung up in the demographics there. Make sure your IT and web people, they're going to want to know about the mobile and browsers, so you'll see traffic in there that's not necessarily relevant maybe to your role if you work admin or another field, but it's this number that you would want them to know about. Cultivate good referrals, and I also say, or clarify. If you're getting traffic from a really totally random site that has nothing to do with you, you might want to look at how you're listed on there, or something that, here's a good example, Palmetto Technology Hub. Let's say we were getting a ton of traffic from people who were just looking to get some free help from us, and they're just some random person. I would want to look at the referral and see if the referral says free tech help for anyone versus free tech help for nonprofits. So that's where you might want to clarify your referral if you're thinking, where is this coming from? Right? Your organic search, that's again, traffic, organic, take out the noise of referrals and paid. Let's just see what's happening with organic. Time on page, always keep it in mind. You want your time, think about your context. You want people on there if you're a content news heavy site. You want people looking at your website. If you're a support site and people are on there for an hour, you might have a little bit of a problem and some angry phone calls because people want to find their information. They don't want us to have to surf for it. Remember, think of your goals as building a relationship, whatever you have people do on the website. And if you have AdWords, make sure you connect to it. So again, I have cards up here, so please feel free to grab them and ask me questions throughout the weekend, or ask me questions in the next few minutes, but I do want to let the next presenter set up, so thank you again for coming.